Welcome back, everyone. Tonight's Chabura is, Baruch Hashem, a few sponsors, Leili Nishmas, a few people. Give me a second. If anyone has it any quicker. Found the Kol Elyon Shabbaton. Okay. Tonight's Chabura is sponsored by Sandy and Sid Goldschmidt in honor of Sid's grandfather, Achavar Moshe Yehuda ben Achavar Yitzchak. Neshama should have an aliyah from the Diburei Torah. It should be Miritz Hashem Leili Nishmas, Mark Liebman's grandfather, sponsored by Rena and Mark Liebman. Ze'ev ben Naftali Zerchon Avracha. It should be the Neshama should have an aliyah from the Divrei Torah. And in Mitzvah Hashem, it also is sponsored. It should have an aliyah for Ann Mermelstein's mother, and it's sponsored by Ann and Jack Mermelstein for Manya Bas Gitzel Leib. So it should be an Ilay Neshama for all those people. Yeshakayach. So we're here on Daf Testament Beis. Daf Testament Beis is a brand new sugya. The Gemara says that what happens in the following case, the bottom of the daf, the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Yosef, Ploini Rav O La'onso. What's the case? A person had relations with another man, Mishkav Zacher, which is this Diburei, Chayav Misa. So Gemara says, Ploni Rav O La'onso. So says Rabbi Yosef, he's talking about a situation that happened to me. A man raped me, myself. So is his testimony about this case accepted? Usually you don't have cases that you talk about where you were involved yourself. But who's better to talk about it than the facts of the case than you? So says Rav Yosef, Hu va'acher mitzdarfen laharga. If there was another individual that witnessed the story, and you join with him to be the two Eidim, that is acceptable, and now the other person who did that to you will be put to death. Fine. But the Gemara says, what happens if I walk into the court case and I change one thing of the story? Ploni Ravo Lirtsono. It was actually willing. I was okay. I consented to it. So now, says Rav Yosef, Rashahu, V'hatayra Amra, Al Tashes Rasha 8. You just invalidated yourself, and by the fact that you invalidated yourself, by definition, you now can't be a witness that's going to join with the other person that saw the story because you just invalidated yourself. A Rasha is Pasal Eidus. Torah says, Al Tashes Rasha 8. What's fascinating is that you only know that I'm a Rasha not from someone else passing me, but from my own testimony. So it's like a catch-22. I'm saying that I'm a Rasha, and if you believe that I'm a Rasha, so then you can't believe what I'm about to tell you, that this guy that this guy raped another man. That's what the Gemara says. But, says Rava, maybe not. Says Rava, even in the second situation, even in a situation where it's ploni rava la'onsi, even when it's with my consent, and I'm explaining that I actually did a Maisa Aveira with ploni, and now I want to know, can that person be killed? Says the Gemara, Rava Amar, Adam karev etzel atzmo, ve'ein Adam mesim atzmo rasha. Says Rava, you can't self-incriminate yourself. You don't have the ability to you don't have ne'emonis. It's a fascinating, not only halachic term, this is a hashkafic idea. You cannot incriminate yourself. You can't, rishus has to be that other people are testifying about your rishus. But you yourself, You can't say you're a Russia. This is the biggest defense against the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara wants you to convince yourself you're a nothing, you're a nobody, you're a Russia, you're an Avera. So the first answer to the Yetzer Hara is Sanhedrin Testament base. Ein adam mesim atzmo Russia. You want to make me into Russia? You got to bring evidence that I'm a Russia. But until you prove that I'm a Russia, I'm not going to make myself a Russia. Ein adam mesim atzmo Russia. Zokt Rava. And therefore, ein adam mesim atzmo Russia. So therefore what? Rava says Rashi, it's not even clear from the Gemara. Rava Amar, the bottom Rashi on the daf, Ein adam nifsal la'edus behodas piv. You walk into court and you want to admit to something. So in the world of financial matters, if I say I owe Sid money, so the Gemara says, Hodas baldin kameya edim dami. I admit that I owe something. That's as if the edim testified that I owe something, because I have now ne'emonis to be mechayev myself, to obligate myself to a monetary obligation. But in psul edus, ein adam nifsal edus bodas piv. The adam karavetz al atzmo. Because why? Because a person is no different than a relative, his sister. I'm a karav to myself. Just like I'm a karav to my mother, I'm a karav to my father, I'm a karav to myself. So you're a psul edus by definition to talk about yourself. You're puzzle. Just like my mother can't testify and my father can't testify about me, I can't testify myself.
I should work the same thing with mama.
What?
Mama.
Oh, so you're asking how can it work b'teres edus? You're right. So
if it's simple.
You're right. It's not going to be the mechanics of edus. You're right. There is a chiddush in dinei mamnis that we ignore the fact that you're a karov, and the fact that you're creating a hischayvus is what's translated to the fact that it's kameya edim dami, but it's not as if there's a testimony of two edim. It's a good point. You're right. That is the chiddush HaTorah in mamon. The adam karvetz atzmo, but here, in order to activate anything in the world of dinei nefashos, his chayvus or obligation is not going to help you. The only thing that's going to create a capital punishment is what? Is real edus, and you're not an aid by yourself.
Even if you have mechanics of edus, how can a person give himself
asra?
It doesn't make any sense.
Right. So let's say two other gives asra. Yeah. Hilkoch einodem, and also that'd be interesting. What if a person before he does the ma'aseh, he never got asra, but he says the almanaskein. He says that he's matir atzmo misa without the asra. Maybe it would be killed then without the din hasra. Almanaskein an yosi. He does the summary of the hasra. Einon yachol lasam atzmo rasha. Kolomer al edus atzmo. Einon nasa rasha. Sharei Torah pasla karov leedus. The Torah invalidated any relatives for edus. So therefore, what's the psak din? So what's a Rava paskening? Bottom line, v'nerag haroveya. So the rapist is now going to be killed because the testimony is accepted. Why? So this is something that the Gemara actually didn't say clearly, which is fascinating. Not yet. Says the Gemara, says Rashi, de Palginan Diburei. Umehemnin le legabi chavrei, v'lo mehemnin le legabi didei lifso la'edus. Says Rashi something fascinating, and this is exactly the topic of the Gemara and the sugya that we're opening up with now. The first source in halacha to the concept of cutting and pasting. You have an edus in front of you, a whole story. This guy raped me and I did consent and I was involved, says the Gemara, Palginan Diburei, literally translated as, we split his words, we cut it in half. We somehow believe him legabe the fact that this man was Roveya, and now this man has two edim up against him, but something else happens to the rest of the story. The question is, what happens to the rest of the story? I know that the bottom line is that it's going to be ignored and it's not going to be accepted, and there's not going to be a Haggadas Edus legabe your aspect of the story. But my question that I really want to analyze tonight is, how does that happen? How does that work? What is it that, where's the delete button? Where do you press cut and paste? Bezdin has Edom that walk in, this is the story. How do they have the mechanics, the ability to just ignore half a statement? That wasn't the story that was presented.
It's not a statement. It's the exact same statement.
It's the exact same statement. It's worse. Yeah, so your mamish...
It's the same, applies here, doesn't apply here.
Right. So what happened to the exact same statement, what Adi is saying? He didn't say Ploni Rava. He said Ploni Ravani Lertoni. That was the story. There was a guy. These were the details. This is what's going on. This is invalid edus. This is not good testimony. And suddenly, Rav is putting this guy to death. Rav is going to kill this person. This is mamish acceptable edus. We paskin halacha like this. How does that work? What's the mechanics of that?
What's the status of the person who consented? You're talking about the person.
Nothing.
No, he consented.
Consented,
And-
that's not acceptable in court. We probably won't give him an aliyah in shul,
No,
but
I
you know what I'm saying?
understand.
But we cannot act on that. There was no edus that was accepted in Bezdin.
So we're only focusing on the person who.
And he
didn't
could
act.
probably sue the shul if they don't give him an aliyah. So that's because they have nothing to work on.
The point is, we're not talking about the person who was involved in consent. He's off the hook, so to speak.
He's off the hook because there's nothing acceptable about it. There's no two edim. If there's no two edim, that's just nothing we could work with.
So can't you say his edus is specifically on the other person? That you're not splitting his testimony.
So what are you doing? Tell me the statement. What's the statement?
The statement is that his statement.
What are the facts? Bezdin's writing down the facts right now. Bezdin wants to know what's the case. Ploni Rav, I know Ploni was involved in the illicit relations, but to who? To what? So says Tosos, yeah.
Mechanics pashtus, the mechanics is anything that's personal does not have to say this.
Right.
So.
Oh, excellent. So we're getting
Going with
beautiful.
Rabbi,
Beautiful. So this is mamish getting to the crux and the lumdus of the sugya. So says Taisus, it's interesting how Taisus gets there, but we have to get a little background in order to see how Taisus got there, but then we'll see how Taisus clearly understands. Hiksha Rivam. The Rivam asked the following question. Midikamer Parak Beis Diksubis, there's another Gemara in Ksubis that talks about also a similar case with Palginan Diburei, but in a different context.
Where's that, by the way?
In the last Tosis, I'm sorry. The bottom Tosis. Ein Adam Mesim Atzma Rasha. Hiksha Rivam. The Rivam asked the following question. Midikamer Parak Beis Diksubis, it says in Ksubis, Ha'edim sha'amru ksav yadenu huzeh. You see, the Gemara in Ksubis is talking about, in order for any shtar to be effective, it's not enough to just have Edim sign on a shtar. You actually have to verify and do something which is called midrabanan kiyum shtaros, that these Edim that signed on it are actually the right Edim, and only then is is a shtar practically effective. So you have to go through the process. Once you signed it, once everything's good, now you have to verify it within Bezdin and make sure those are actually the Edim that signed it and that's their signatures, and now it's something that's kosher v'yosher. So what happens, says the Gemara, when Edim are coming and they're verifying, oh yeah, those are our signatures. We're the Edim that signed on that shtar. Ha'edim sha'amru ksav yadenu huzeh, that's our signature. Aval anusim hayinu. But there's a little bit of a detail. There was a gun to our head when we signed that shtar. Ktanim hayinu. We were children at that time. It might be our signature, but we knew how to sign as a child. Psule edis hayinu. We were invalid for testimony, so it's right. It is our ksav, but it's not valid. Ne'emonim, says the Gemara. They're believed. V'amar Reb Chama bar Gemara, and the Gemara qualifies that statement. Lo shanu, by the time when they said there was a gun to their head, lo shanu ela sha'amru anusim ayinu machmas nefashos. That is only an acceptable statement for them to back out and say, oh yeah, it's our ksav, but our ksav was under duress. We were forced to do that. Says Rami Bar Chama, that's only acceptable if it's anuchsim ayinu machmas nefashos, if there was a gun to their head and they actually thought they were going to be killed. But, says the Gemara in Ksubis, aval anusim machmas mamon, but if the guy who was trying to write the shtar and needed signatures said, I'm going to give you $2 million, it's going to be put in your bank, and they say, that's the reason we did it, so then the Gemara says, Einan ne'emanim. So then they can't back out, and they're not believed to say anusim ayinu. Why? My taima, ein adam mesim atzmo rasha. Because if you did that, then you're basically saying you gave into money, and that was a maisa rishus. Bishlama, if you had a gun to your head, okay, you're not a rasha. But here now you're saying you gave into money. That's something that's not accepted, and you're not believed. But Rava hu demasik hasam, and Rava is this one who there claims, and Rava is the one who's saying that statement. So I don't understand. Rav is the one who says over here, Palginan Diburei. We can split their statement. So why don't we do the same thing over there? Amailo Palginan Diburei, we should split their statement. V'nehemninu b'may dekamre shahayu anusim, and we should believe them to tell us that they were anusim. Avalo machmas mamon. we should now take their statement and believe it halfway, even if it was machmas mamon. Why? Palginan Diburei. That's Tosfos kasha. Rava's inconsistent. In some places, Rava says we change the story. In some places, Rava says we don't change the story. Why is that? It's inaccurate. So Tosfos, it's inconsistent. Says Tosfos, I'll tell you why. V'nira de'ahidik subis asya kamanda amar b'yesh neichlin de'loi palginan Diburei bechad gufa. Perish bechad gufa k'mo gerashti es ishti de'lo palginan Diburei bechad gufa lomar de'lo mehemin l'sha'avar mehemin la'aba. The kach, this is the case. Anusim ayinu machmas amamun. In the case of anusim ayinu, we're talking about ourselves the whole time. We are those witnesses that sign, but we were anusim, and we were anusim. The story was that you offered us a lot of money. So then you're going to make a palginan Diburei. You're going to split between their words about themselves, bechad gufa, about their own testimony about themselves. Says Tosfos, that's a debate in the Gemara. That might be a limitation to the concept of palginan Diburei. Namely what? Tosfos says, in our Gemara, by the case of Ploni Ravani Lurtzoni, that's not palginan Diburei bechad gufa. There's two people here that are relevant to the case. There's the Roveya, and then there's the Nirba, the guy who's talking right now. So I am now saying an independent statement that this guy was Roveya. So now Rava says, I can cut your words. I'm going to accept it legabe the guf of the Roveya, and I'm not going to accept your words legabe the guf, the second person, the second party of yourself. But in the case of Ksubis, where it's a palginan, a split within the same party, the same two individuals, that's a limitation to palginan Diburei, and that's not going to be acceptable.
Isn't there another difference?
Yeah.
By the ones who signed the star, they were rewarded. It was a motivation. It was a reason why they did it.
Right.
By the person who was raped and he admitted that I did it. What did he get out of it?
Right, but Rav is saying, why don't we say we should believe, meaning if you have a general concept that we don't believe people that make themselves into Rishayim. So Tosfos says, why over here are you saying that we don't believe them at all? Believe them, but just change.
I understand that, but the basis of the stories are different.
Why?
The two people signed the document. They put Russia because you know why you're Russia, because you did it for $2 million. So there was an incentive for him.
There's an incentive here too.
What's the incentive?
He want no. Yeah, he wanted to get or over here he wants to enjoy this. He said he enjoyed it. He has a ratzon. He's wanting it. What's the difference between a ratzon for cash and a ratzon for illicit relations?
No, there's one is mammon, one is.
So what's the difference?
No, this case is
ratzon.
no, but still this case is dinah mammon.
Yeah.
In our case, dinah fashion.
But in both cases we need to aid them. In both cases, we need to aid them. So Tosfos is saying, why are you inconsistent? Why don't you split between the words? So Tosfos says, maybe you split when it comes to one guf, and you don't split when it comes to two gufs. But this is where I want to zero in the Tosfos. This is fascinating. If you believe him for half the story, that he was under duress, you should believe him shu machmas mamon. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You have to believe it legabe the mamon. Give me 1 second, Mark. V'chein ploni ravo l'rtzono. So too says Tosfos. Let me explain to you our Gemara. This is where Tosfos explains our Gemara. When this guy walks in and says, Ploni had bia with me, and I acquiesced and I consented. Ein lefarish. Don't misunderstand the concept of Palginan Diburei. De lo mehemin b'haid kamar l'rtzono. Ela Palginan Diburei lomar sherova leonso. Dim kain ave Palginan Diburei bechad gufa. Says Tosfos, don't think that we're accepting the whole story and we're accepting all the facts. What do you mean you're accepting all the whole story and you're accepting all the facts? Says Tosfos, very simple. Palginan Diburei would have mean that he slept with me, I had bia with him, but you changed one word. It wasn't l'ratzon, it was la'ones. Maybe that's the shtick of Palginan Diburei. We delete one word, we change the word ratzon, we change the word ones, but all the facts and all the people and all the parties are the same thing. Says Tosfos, that can't be. Because if that would be the case, then what? Then you're Palginon bechad gufa. then you're taking one of the individuals in the case and you're saying, I'm believing him legabe that he was involved in a bia aspect, but I'm not believing him legabe what? The fact that he had ratzon, he acquiesced. Says Tosos, that's in violation of what? Palginan Diburei b'chad gufa. That's like the case in Ksubis, that you're believing the Eidim legabe something and not legabe other thing. Which one is it? Do you believe the Eidim or not? Okay, so if that's right, Tosos, so then how do you understand Palginan Diburei here? So says Tosos, you misunderstood Palginan Diburei. Let me explain to you what's happening in Palginan Diburei. Rather, what's happening over here? Ubemiktas mehemen ahai gufa ubemiktas lo mehemen? That can't be. You can't split within one guf. At least according one day in the Gemara, says Tosos. Ella Palginan, listen to what Tosos says. You split the following. Lomar sherava avalo sherav. I split betray gufe. I'm believing this person that he did it, but guess what? He did it with someone else. He didn't do it to me. So I'm splitting between the trey gufos. I'm believing him the gabe ploni rava, but nothing to do with you. That's a clear-cut Palginan Diburei. You said two statements. Statements about two different people, two individuals. So we're going to accept about the whole statement about one individual, and we're not going to accept the statement about the other individual. In essence, what does Tosa say as he explains? V'chein muchach mi ploni rava shori. Diavamrinan adam karav etzel mamono havaminan de mehemen loymar sherava shor acher. The Gemara in Mirza Hashem, we're going to see soon. The Gemara says, what happens about the case that I walk in and I talk about my animal? Someone was rove my shore. So the Gemara says, do you say that a person is a karav to his shore? So if you say that a person is karav to a shore, so then how do you accept his edus? So it says very simple. You basically change the words and you say, Ploni Rava Shor Acher. Another shore, not my shore. So too says Tosos, that's going to be the case in our Gemara. Ploni Rava, not OC, but Ploni Rava Acher. And that's the way Palginan Diburei. Your mom is changing the words. Your mom is changing the words. Your mom is cutting and pasting, literally, like changing the words. Avalo Shora, de Beshoro in Shaykh Lechalik Ben Ezler Ratzon. Fine. So Tosos clearly is defining Palginan Diburei that it would depend on if there was one or two individuals, because that's something that we can make a clean split. And Palginan Diburei is understood mamish with the delete button, rearranging things, changing things around. And if it's not going to be a clear split because you're going to have to start getting stuck within Chad Gufa, Tosos says that's already sticky waters and we're not going to make a clean Palginan Diburei then. But betray Gufa, we can make a story over here. It's true Ploni Rava, but not Ploni Rava OC, Ploni Rava Acher. Ploni had a relationship with someone else. Ad Kedei Kach, there is a Tshuvas Harashba. The Tshuvas Harashba says that you're so much mixing around the words that he says the following. So he's talking about a case Ploni Rava OC. So says the Tshuvas Harashba, you can now say a Palginan Diburei on such a case. The Rashba actually had this a Shaila Lalach Lamaisa. There was a woman who came into Bezdin and talked about his nus, and she presented the words as follows. Ani zanisi imploni. So the Rashba says, it's so unbelievable. The Rashba says, depending on the way the testimony was presented, and whether or not I can make a clear split, that will now not apply Palginan Diburei. And then Rabbi Yehuda Halacha quotes this Rashba in Shuvas. So it's so much based on the phraseology and the usage, and it's whether or not we can stick in Ploni was Rava, but not him, Acher. Says the Rashba, if it's phrased the wrong way, that's going to make all the difference, and it's going to make a Shaila La'alacha whether or not we're going to kill someone or not. Unbelievable. And this Rabbi Yehuda, Mirza Hashem, maybe I'll bring it in. The Rabbi Yehuda brings this Rashba La'alacha. But says the Tosos, it all depends on whether or not that's applicable to sound accepted on one and not accepted on the other. Yeah, Mark. I'm sorry, Mark. Yeah, we'll get to you in a second. Yeah.
It's interesting that, again, according to Tosos, changing the words.
Yeah. Mamish.
The whole starting point was Russia 8. They can't listen to Russia. But now we're basically saying this guy's a liar. By changing his words, his Aedis is now a lie.
his
He's saying,
No,
okay,
we're saying he didn't say what, he
in
didn't say that.
in
no, he's saying he was Rovea, someone else.
Yeah, but it's not someone.
That's not true.
right, right,
He's not a liar.
right.
He's not a Russia.
It's a lot.
But he's a liar. He's a liar.
I mean, everyone. What Maury's saying is Al Pidin, he's not a liar because we can't prove him to be a liar. But everyone knows in the courtroom that he's a that this testimony is fake.
Still, it's not Al Tashis Yad.
Right, that's true. It's not violating Al Tesh's Yad Chem Russia, but everyone knows that this statement that Bezdin's working on is a lie. Right, 100%. Yeah. Ad kedei kach, Taisus quote, let's go a little further in Taisus. Taisus says, what would you hold in the following case? Taisus says, Viteda. You see where it is? It's the middle of the line. I don't know how many lines up?
6.
6 lines up from the bottom. Viteda. Dim hayakoyin nasui achoso. What happens if my sister is married to a kohen? So therefore what? My sister is married to a kohen. So if it's onis or if it's ratzon, we'll now have ramifications if they could stay married. Because unfortunately, if an Ashes Kohen is raped, she's not allowed to stay married to her husband. So the Toso says, "V'teidim haya kohen nasi achoso, v'hu va'acher meidim sheploni ba'alea," and he and someone else is now going to testify about his sister. Says Tosos, "Svari hilarava demitzarfina lahargo." They work together. They can be the brother of the girl, meaning the guy testifying about his brother-in-law, mitzdarfen lahargo, avalo lahargo, afilu laosra al bala, afal pisha nesres baones. Again, there's a woman who's married to a kohen, right? Now I'm testifying about the man who raped my sister, okay? Now, Tosus says, I'm a korov to my sister. I can't testify about my sister. Says Tosus, Palginan Diburei. What do? You say, that man raped a woman. Who did he rape? I don't know, a woman, some other woman. You accept the testimony. I said that he raped my sister. I'm accepting the testimony that he raped, and I'm not accepting the testimony. I'm cutting the words that he raped your sister. Ad kedei kach, says Toisus, the sister's allowed to stay married to the husband, to the Eishes Kohen. Because you cut the words and they could stay married. Palginan Diburei. It's as if Toisus says, Ploini Rava Isha Acheres, another woman, they can stay married. That case of Toisus is never found in Shas. The Gemara never talks about such a case. Toisus just took the klalim that we learned, as long as it's trei gufa and not chad gufa, and it's able to be split, and we can cut it out and say it's as if someone else. Toisus says the same should be true, and Baruch Hashem, we can even save their marriage, and it's as if she wasn't even raped. We never accepted that in the first place. Now, we have to jump to the Ravid in Maseches Makos and present an entirely different approach to our sugya, to the Rosh in Maseches Makos. The Rosh quotes the Shita of the Ravid, and he has a fascinating approach to our sugya. What's the background in this Rosh? So the Gemara talks in Siman Yud Gimel Yud Daled on Daf Zayin Amid Aleph, in the bottom of the first column of the Rosh. Eloi v'tuve, it starts off. So I'm going to tell you, there's two options. Baruch Hashem, we live in a technological savvy world so that you can have 2 rushes served at your door, no problem, with a cup of tea, and enjoy yourself. Choose which one's better. So we're going to go with the one in the old version. So Eloi v'tuve. Eloi v'tuve, the Gemara is talking about the following situation. There were 2 guys, and they were being made about a loan. About a loan. About a malva and a loan. Mark, you still have a question? You're good? Okay, fine. You have 2 Eidim about a loan. And these 2 Eidim are kosher Eidim. Yet the Gemara says there's a problem. They're not related to the malva, to the lender, or to the borrower, to the love, but they are related to the guarantor, to the arif. So now the Gemara says it's a problem for these 2 witnesses to testify about the case because the guarantor is involved in the case, in Dinei Mominus. So the Rishonim asked the following question. The im timer. the first word on the line is Vehevi Edim. How many lines is that?
Depends what side you're looking at.
I'm looking on the old version. That's true.
On the bottom
Oh, you're on the other side. 7. Should I go in the new one? Vim timer, help me out. Fourth line, great. Oh, this is better. Vim timer. V'nehemne legabe loivesh loipara, v'loinehemne legabe arif. What's the problem? These two Eidim, we should accept their Eidim. Let's apply Sanhedrin Testament base, Palginan Diburei. Let's believe the Eidim about the fact that the Love borrowed from the Maravet, and we're not going to believe the Eidim about the guarantor. We'll split that up, and we'll accept their Eidim for what we could accept their Eidim for. The Palginan Diburei. Mida dahave ahida perakam de Sanhedrin. Now he just quotes our Gemara. Ploni rav l'ritzona. Huva achar mitzarf l'argo. The Palginan Diburei. The Adam karvetz atzma. He didn't make some rashma. He's just quoting our Gemara. The Chem perak said bora. The Gemara has another case. Barbitos asa debate trei sadi chada maroziv rivusa. Let's skip down. He's just quoting all the dinim of Palginan Diburei. Oh. So he says, where's that? Yesh Mitartzim.
First word is Vilahemne.
Vilahemne. Oh, the Yesh Mitartzim, very good, thank you. The Yesh Mitartzim, and there are those that answer. Again, what's the kasha? The kasha is, what's the problem? Let's accept these Eidim. They're good for the Lov and the Malv, and they're not good for the Yard. Yesh Mitartzim. The Lo Domid, Hasam. Hanisadi lichyu vegavro lemifsali ka'asu. This, in that situation, in the Gemara in Sanhedrin, they're coming to make a chiyuv on the person or to passel him. Hilkoch be'ikra edishem omrim sharava o shalava beribis ne'monim. Ubasha Amar, for a further detail, lididi, the Gemara talks about another case, further in Sanhedrin. Mitzvah we'll get to it. I think it's in the third parak, in Zeborer. The Gemara talks about what happens if I walk into court and I say, oh, that guy lent beribis. That guy lent beribis. How do you know? He lent it to me. So the Gemara says, you just made yourself puzzle because you were the one who borrowed beribis. So the Gemara, and you're also to borrow ribis also. So the Gemara says, so why don't you say Palginan Diburei? Believe me that he lent, and not legabe that he lent to me. So the Gemara says over there you can split it up. Masha Amar l'didim mili achrini. Therefore it's something different. V'lo kalame avala aminam l'chayev aloy v'loya arev yefsher kevin sheyesh star shu arev. So the first answer of the Rishonim is very simple. Understand, what are you going to split up over here? There's one loan. There's one loan with a guarantor. But the loan means that there's a borrower, there's a lender, and there's a guarantor on a loan. How are we going to split up a Palginan Diburei to say, oh, he borrowed, but there was no guarantee? No, means there was some other. You can't split that. That's all on one loan. That's one fact. There aren't two details that we can split, very similar to what we were presenting in Tosos, that it's got to fit with the split. Ad Kadei Kach, we said that some Rishonim held, it depends on how it was presented. The Lashon of the split has to work. Comes along the Ravid and says, no, you got the whole thing wrong. And now listen to this Ravid. This Ravid, I have a personal affinity to this Ravid. I think this Ravid explains a lot of different sugyas in Shas, and in Amir Tzashem, hopefully we can get to it and explain where this Ravid came from. But I think this Ravid is one of the most fundamental Ravids in terms of understanding what Eidus is. Listen to this Ravid. A Ravid Zal Kosev B'Tshuvosov. Shekol Eidus Shabat Lemiktsasa Machmas Psul Kurva Bat Lakula. Ask the Ravid, I don't understand. This whole concept of Palginan Diburei makes and totally contradicts anything we've learned so far and we've talked about so often. Every week, Kima, we speak about what concept? Eidus Shabat Lemiktsasa Bat Lakula. Nimtze Echem Yem Karvu Pasal. One of the Eidim is Pasal. One part of the Eidus is Nisbatel. We throw out everything. We get rid of everything. We're so machmir about that. Says the Ravid, suddenly you come to Sanhedrin, Testament base, you just became the biggest makel in the world. Oh, you said something, it's problematic? No more Eidus Shabat Lemiktsasa Bula. Palginan Diburei. What happened to the klal of Eidus Shabat Lemiktsasa Balakula? If you're not Nemon for part of your statement, the whole thing's thrown out. That's what we did Lagabi the Mesach Bekuvia. That's what we did Lagabi the gambler, Lagabi everyone. That's one of the Eidim is gone, so we don't accept any of the Eidim. That's the concept. Everything's got to be kosher v'yosher l'chadchila. Tahalo palibu rachmana da amar mashnayim nimtzech karo palzei dusam betela avshlosha alma lo palginan edusam. From the fact that the Torah says anyone who comes into Bezdin and give Eidus, we throw it out, that shows that the Torah didn't say Palginan Diburei. Why don't you just split it up? Adam Karavitz Atzma and the Mace Matzrasho. Oh, so listen to what the Ravid says. That which our Gemara says, a person is a Karav to himself, and he's not going to be able to be accepted to make himself a Rasha. What does that mean? So up until now we said, press delete, cut and paste, split the words, make it another story like Maury said, make a sheker over here. Says the Ravid, no, there's no sheker here. There's nothing deleted. There's nothing that's cut and paste, and there's nothing that's being rearranged or changed. You misunderstood the fundamentals of our Gemara. Hainu dafka kishemeid al atzmo she'ein ze edus klal. Edus, by definition, says the Ravid, is testimony. Testimony, says the Ravid, is by definition roe es acherim. I am looking from the window. I am walking on the street as a bystander, and I see someone else doing something. I now come into court and I testify. But if you want to talk about yourself, says the Ravid, that's just not edus. It was never niskabel in Bezdin. When we try to start typing, the stenographer starts typing and saying a witness's testimony, it's not entering into the stenographer's typewriter what he says about himself. That's just not edus. That's being made about yourself. That's not edus. She'ein ze edus klal. Ela kemi she'eino dami. It's blank. It's as if it never registered. She'ein adam nikra la'atzmo eid posel kedei shenemar edus b'lamiktazo b'alakula. So therefore, says the Ravid, Palginan Diburei is not ignoring the concept of edus shebat lamiktazo b'alakula. There was never edus that was batla. It has to be edus in order to be accepted. Whatever you say about yourself is not edus. Whatever I say about other people is edus. So was half of this thrown out? Absolutely not. It just never was registered. So now when you ask the Ravid, is Palginan Diburei deleting, rearranging, cut and pasting, or even talking about another person and adding something else to the story like Maury asked, that it sounds like a little sheker? Says the Ravid, no. You walk into court and you say, Ploni Rava Lertzoni. That's the statement we take. And we're leaving the statement it is. But you know what? There's only Haggadas Edus on half the statement. Because whatever you're saying about something else is Haggadas Edus. What you're saying about yourself is like you're a baldover about yourself. You can't talk about yourself. That's not registering as Edus. So it's nothing that Bezdin has to delete. It just never started to be in the parsha of V'hura o Yada, to be an aid. It's not Eid Shabalim and Kula. It's not going against that klal. Mamish answers all. So now the Ravid says, so what are you asking about? Saying Legabi the Arev and not Legabi the Lova, Palginan Diburei. Says the Ravid, I don't even understand this Chinese you're talking about. You want to say that we should split, that he should be believed, Legabi the Arev, not the Lova, and the first day in the Rush says, no, you have to understand that there's klolim about Palginan, and it can't be when it's one loan, it has to be when it's two separate entities, and that's like similar to our Toisvis, it has to be two separate gufim, and there's all these different rules. When you apply Palginan, when you don't apply, how could you delete? How could you copy and paste? How could you change the story? Says the Ravid, what? I couldn't even envision a possibility of saying Palginan Diburei in the case of the Edom with the Arev and the Love. Because they're talking about someone else. They're Edom. Palginan Diburei fundamentally just works when you're talking about yourself. Then you're not an aid on yourself. So it's automatically a Palginan. It's not because Bezdin pressed delete. It's not because Bezdin changes or rearranges any of the statement. It's just what registers as Edus registers and what doesn't register, doesn't register. There's no faking over here, and there's no change of story like Maury asked, and it's not like Taisus at all. It's not like the first sheet in the Rush. And it's not going against the klal of Edus Shabbat L'Miktas L'Kula, because there was never Edus that was Nispatel. No Edus is being thrown out. Whatever is Edus is being accepted. Whatever's not Edus was never accepted to begin with. Yeah.
You understand mechanically, in the Mesa Matzma Russia, that a person cannot give Edus on himself.
Yes.
It just physically can't.
Right. It doesn't work. Right. It's not a hashkafic issue. It's not like I started off the shir to say you can't be made or Adam Karav Eitzalasmal. No, it's not a psul Karav. It's just it never got the ball rolling in the first place. That's the definition of Edus. Says the Ravid, I'm going to teach you and I'm going to answer all the questions that you have, all the sugyas, with one simple principle. Let me explain to you what Eidus is. Eidus means you're testifying about other people. And so there's Ravid, all the kash is based on that. And that's the way our sugya works, says the Ravid.
No, but what happens if you're testifying about couple?
Oh, beautiful idea. I couldn't have timed it better. Comes along the Ravid. Do you remember I said what Tosfos said? There's no Gemara in Shas. There's no case. So let's go back to the case of Tosfos. Tosfos says, how does this work? By Palginan Diburei, when it works, and when it's valid, when it's Trey Gufe. So now we're going to say it's as if it happened to someone else. Maury's going to be bothered like he is, and he should be, that it's not exactly true, but that's what we have to live with through a Palginan Diburei. And what does Tosfos say? I'm even going to go and take it to the following case. There was a kohen that was married to a woman, and this woman was raped, and her brother and someone else saw the rape. And now they come in and testify against the rapist. Says the Gemara, says Tosfos, we now plug in the principles of Palginan Diburei, somehow ignore all the kashas of Ne'edah Shabbat L'Mitzvah Shabbat L'Kula, make a new story over here, and now make it Ploni Rava al Ish Acher, al Isha Acheres, and this Eishes Kohen could now stay married. She wasn't the one that was raped by this husband. What's Tosfos assuming? Tosfos is assuming that our klal is exactly what Abe said. What's the problem with Ein Adam Yisem Da'at Rasha? What's the problem with being maiden on yourself? Just like I'm a karev to my mother, just like I'm a relative to my sister, just like I'm a karev to myself. So it's Eidus of apostle. So Eidus of apostle, what do? We split it in half. We accept it about one half of the story, as long as it's splittable. But we don't accept it about the other half of the story. So therefore, Tosfos goes out on his own and he says, the same would be true legabe being made on my sister. We split the Eidus about the rapist, and the psul part of the Eidus we don't accept. The Ravid would be sent the Shiloh of the Kohen. Can you apply Palginan Diburei like Tosfos applied? And the Ravid would say, absolutely not. That's not Palginan Diburei. You can't apply Palginan Diburei by what? By Krovim? How could you apply a Palginan Diburei by Krovim? Then you're testifying about someone else, and you're apostle aid. Then the principle of Eidah Shabbat L'Miktzah Shabbat L'Kula applies. We don't just suddenly ignore Eidah Shabbat L'Miktzah Shabbat L'Kula. So therefore, it says the Ravid, in the case of Tosfos, it would be absolutely apostle, and she would be usher to be married to her husband. They can't be married. You can't apply it to other Krovim. If that's true, then we have a major problem. Comes along the Gemara and applies it to other Krovim. He would accept the testimony, but he'd throw it out. He would say like this: Ploni ba alachosi ba'oines, and she's an Eishes Kohen. So the Ravid says, I don't understand. He's Karov, so throw it out. So you're saying she would be able to be married because there's no Eidim. That's true. Okay, that's true. You're right. But not that we can kill him. Right. Tosfos is saying we can kill him and they could stay married. Right. So Tosfos, you're right. The Ravid is just saying the whole Eidus is invalid. The whole Eidus is throw out. But Tosfos is saying no, the Eidus is accepted, and we could do a Palginan legabe achoso.
Part of the Eidus is not good. We're literally throwing it away.
That's the old klal of Eidah Shabbat L'Miktzah Shabbat L'Kula. And the Ravid says, I don't understand how all the other Rishonim are ignoring that. What happened to that klal? Which is something we actually have to resolve. How is it that the Rishonim are now ignoring the principle, the fundamental principle that we've been running with throughout the sugyas, that there is a concept of if half the Eidus is invalid, all the Eidus is thrown out. But to make matters worse, the Gemara goes on. Amar Rava, Ploni Baal Ishto, on the top of Yudam and Aleph. Ploni Baal Ishti, I'm sorry. Hu va'acher mitztaref lahorgo.
We're already changing it.
Yeah, exactly. Hu va'acher mitztaref lahorgo. He and someone else can now get revenge on this man who was Baal, his wife, and kill him. Avalo lahorgo. But to kill her, you don't. Why? Maika Mashmalon, says the Gemara. This is where the Gemara introduces the line. It's interesting. Up until now, we never heard this principle yet. Now the Gemara says, Maika Mashmalon, what's the Chiddush? The Palginan Diburei. So now the Gemara asks, what's the same Chiddush? What's the din? Hainu hach, you're just saying the same statement twice. Fine. So what's the Gemara saying? Palginan Diburei is applying by what? Is applying by Krovim. So that's going to be a question on who? On the Ravid. How's the Raiva going to understand this? This might be Taisus Raya. Taisus seemed to see that, you see, Palginan Diburei was not only about yourself. You see, Palginan Diburei was not only definitional about Eidos, because there's a Gemara that even applies it to my wife. So the Ravid is going to have some explaining to do. And I hate to do this, but we're going to have to end right now. And Mirza Hashem, next week, we'll try to discuss how the Ravid resolves that. And in Mirza Hashem next time, I will suggest where the Ravid got his Shita from. The Ravid didn't only get this Shita, in my opinion, from this Gemara and from his Shita. I think that there's a Gemara that the way the Ravid understood that got his definition of what Eidus means from a different Gemara. And Amir Hashem will see that next week, and we'll analyze all that. Keep the Rush, keep the Ravid, and Amir Hashem will go in the future into the Ravid in a little bit.